You know, when you are responsible, it also brings about a lot of mutual respect because you feel like, you can respect a person who makes a mistake or who says they're going to do something and they do it. It really makes you feel like, you know what, I can look at that person and I can say, I know that I can respect that person for who they are. They're going to be honest with me. They're going to be real. They're going to do their utmost best to fulfill their promises. And when you look at a person that way and you deal with a person that way, naturally your mutual respect will grow. And if you both were to do that and bring those qualities into the marriage, your marriage is going to strengthen. And you really do want mutual respect, because the opposite to that is resentment and blame and, cattiness and scorekeeping. And those are the things that actually destroy marriage. You have to remember that you're on one team, and it's two components, two people coming from two different worlds and trying to build a life together. And that's not always easy, but if you build a foundation of mutual respect, where you have dignity, where you're honest with each other, where you take responsibility, then you can, inshallah, create a really beautiful and strong marriage. When you take responsibility as well, I find that conflict resolution is a lot easier. It tends to be that conflicts drag on, things are not resolved, things linger, there's a lot of blame, and then that leads to kind of resentment, especially if things are not resolved. If you don't find a common ground, or an ability to agree to disagree, sometimes even an ability just to accept things as they are. And part of that is responsibility. I find when couples lack that, oh, well, so what if I didn't do it? And they're making the excuses, well, I was doing this and I was doing that, and the defenses are there and the lack of responsibility happens. Then I do find that those kind of couples don't have that element of that emotional connection. Emotional connection is built on security and safety, and every human being wants that. But you can't have safety, you can't have security if you're working with somebody who isn't responsible. Like, they don't take accountability for their actions. They don't realize that other people rely on them. There is a knock-on effect for the behaviors that I have, the actions that I have, the way that I say something. And on a side note, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, really, what we say, we go alone and we came alone, and Allah will ask us for the things that we did. He's not going to question us about the other person and what did they do. And so no matter what your circumstance, no matter what you think that your spouse should have done or shouldn't have done, in the end, your part in that is to decide, well, how am I going to respond to them? And when both people are that conscious, where two of you really step back and say, I want to be the best that I can. I want to show up the best way possible. I want to show up with integrity and honesty and decency and like just softness with my spouse. I want to make sure I take my responsibility in whatever happens. So it could be in any given situation. You might make a request and your partner might not accept that request. They might not be able to fulfill that request, and it's not the answer that you wanted. You're responsible for the reaction that you give, the response that you give. And your partner is also responsible for the way in which they say no to you, or the way that they respond to you, or the way that they put that boundary up, should it be a boundary. And, if each person was to look at themselves, then that conflict resolution would be so much easier. The reason that conflicts become so difficult is each person doesn't want to let go of their part in it. I'm right in some way in their mind, they justify whatever they did. And really, who wins? Like, you can be right, or you can have a marriage. You can be right, or you can have a really healthy relationship. You don't have to be right to be accepted. You don't have to be right to mean anything about yourself. You can make mistakes. We're human beings. And actually, it's more, endearing for someone who might not get something right to say, do you know what, you're right, I hold my hands here. I am a little bit critical. I am quite defensive. I should have asked you in this I could have reacted like this. Those kind of responses that are softer, more open about the both of you, without that defense, without that, some sort of like shell around you. Those kind of things really do enable a couple to have like a softness and a connection. So I highly, highly recommend that the thing that you look at is responsibility in order for you to achieve that tranquility in the relationship.